Sexual abuse class action lawsuit filed against another Christian school. Hi, I'm Scott. This is Church's Lame, the podcast where we try to fix the church by talking about stupid things churches do that break the entire body. Mark's on vacation this week, well earned, so you got me flying solo this week, and I'm going to try to keep this plane in the air. All right? So let's get to it. So, we have three women who have filed a class action lawsuit against a Christian school and an affiliated church in Canada, alleging that a former Sunday school teacher abused them in the 1990s and the administration covered it up. At the time, it was called the Christian Center Academy and the Saskatoon Christian Center Church. Now they are known as Legacy Christian Academy and Mile 2 Church. Yeah, so this is not the first time we've been through this rodeo, and it won't be the last time we've been through this rodeo. So class action lawsuits are a little bit different in that a bunch of people come together and share their representation, and a single verdict will be rendered. Some sort of singular compensation will be equally distributed to everybody in the class action lawsuit. Class action lawsuits tend to be about verdicts and accountability because once you spread that, whatever the, if it's monetary compensation, whatever the punishment is, once you spread that out across the multiple people, it actually ends up being not that much anyway. So it's really interesting that this is happening. Another interesting aspect of this particular story is that earlier this year, 18 more students have come forward alleging that they were coerced into exorcisms and suffered corporeal punishment at the hands of school officials, right? So they were slapped or hit or, somehow jostled or something for being disobedient. But the part that always kind of sends me in the tailspin is it's 2022 and we are really still performing exorcisms, whether they're serious and, you're doing the fake blood and, the fake knives and actually cutting into somebody's stomach, or if it's just, in this case, what they alleged was like, oh, the adult grabbed me and held me and started praying in tongues and wouldn't let me go until they felt like the demon was wrestled out of me. Like to a young kid, it's the same thing. It's no less scary and confusing, whether there's fake blood involved or not. And it's just beyond mind blowing that this is what we do to discipline children, to help teach them, it's not helpful at all, but in the adult's mind, to help teach them respect and obedience and things like of that nature. Just so off the charts, unimaginable, and like I'm not a perfect guy. If you ask my wife, she will tell you there have been times that I've been uber angry, and there have been times that I've wanted to hit people. But you don't. You just don't, right? You don't hit people. That's just the deal. You find another way to deal with your anger and your rage or whatever else you're feeling, but you don't physically take that and onto somebody else, especially a child where you're two or three times their size and you have, multiples of their strength. That's just beyond my imagination. I don't know about yours. My imagination has a hard time conceiving of it. Where my mind went with this week, because these stories can start to sound very similar to one another, and our criticisms can sound very, very like a broken record because these stories come around so darn often that I try to come up with a new way of approaching it whenever we see a familiar story. So I kind of went back to the basics. Who's in charge of this crap show? The leadership of the school seems to think it's sufficient. Words is hard. Words is very hard, especially when you're flying solo. Don't judge me. Back up off me. Just saying. But like the administration seems to think that it's sufficient just to say, look, the people who are guilty of this are no longer working here. Like, really? You think that's the extent of your job is just to say, well, hey, we fired him, then that's that. Let's close the book and move forward. It's like, well, yeah, you want to get over this so you can like start like getting your enrollment up and getting more money flowing. But for these kids that were abused, this is a lifetime of therapy. This is a lifetime of feeling shame and feeling confusion about who they are and what it means to be human. Don't you think you have some part to play in making things right just beyond, well, we fired him. Okay, thanks. Bye. Talking about like doing the the bare minimum amount. Where is the concern for the children? And I don't mean like where's the concern after the fact, but I mean, why don't you have systems in place to protect your children while they're in your facility? Why don't you have systems in place to give them the best environment possible while they are under your care, right? In what universe is it not known that adults are sneaking kids into janitors' closets and doing exactly what you think they're doing, right? Oh, reach into my pocket. In my pocket, there's no pocket there, so they hit something else, right? Where is the concern for not just like lots of concern for making sure that the enrollment's up and that monies are coming in, there's donors coming in, and we're having we're getting money and grants from the government. Lots of energy being put in make sure that the bank account's full. Can't we put some of that effort into making sure our kids are well cared for? I don't know. That's just me. Okay. What is failing in Christian apprenticeship that this kind of abuse has become fairly normal and commonplace? We don't go by a month without reading a couple headlines of some sort of abuse, physical, mental, spiritual, sexual, that happens in a church or a Christian institution. We don't go by a month. That's just reality. It doesn't matter how you feel about it, whether you feel mad or angry or disappointed or hurt. It doesn't matter how you feel. It's a reality. It happens. It happens a whole heck of a lot. And so that points to a systemic problem, right? And I know that that's a bad word in 2022 when nobody wants to talk about systemic racism and the fact that it's real. But there's a systemic problem. And I don't know if that problem is nepotism. Pastors tend to hire their kids, and I've been at churches where this is now normal, right? It doesn't matter how qualified or unqualified the kid is. We're just going to hire them and put them at a very high level of leadership with no real world training, no real world experience, no moving up through the ranks in a predictable and steady process. It's just, hey, here you are. You're out of college and you're my kid. I'm going to put you at the higher levels of leadership. Don't screw it up. And then we cross our fingers. Like, why are we crossing our fingers? Why aren't we creating systems to not only say, well, you've been through college, so that we do enough, but hey, we're going to put you in at the lowest level, and you're going to have to show us that that you can pick up the job, and that you can shepherd people's hearts safely and their minds and their bodies, and that you're a good steward of their lives. Then, as you earn our trust and gain the trust of the body, you will find new avenues of leadership and responsibility here in the organization, right? So I don't know if the problem is nepotism. I don't know if the problem is we just no longer have an apprenticeship problem. We have a staffing problem. Like, hey, we are just shorthanded, and we will just take anybody who has a teaching certificate and we will just plug them in someplace. Is that the problem? I don't know. So I know that teachers are walking away from public schools in droves because they just can't pay the bills off of what public schools are offering. So there's lots of qualified candidates out there. Now, you have the whole issue of do they have to be Christian to work here? Whatever. But somewhere at a systematic level, we are failing because this is occurring far too often. And these administrators of these schools and these pastors of churches need to start getting serious, not just about making sure that the money's coming in, but that the systems are in place to keep people safe. I sound like a broken record, but this is where we are tonight. Okay? When can a teacher walk away from their class long enough to abuse a student or students and not have another adult notice that their class has been left alone for an extended amount of time? Like, I get it. Like, I remember school, right? You got 10, 20, 30 kids in a classroom. You have one adult, right? Not every school is able to have like a teaching assistant or a second person in the room. So, you have one adult, you have all these kids, and apparently you don't trust a young person to walk down the hallway to the bathroom. Like, that needs to be you, the teacher, escorting them. Like, they can't use the buddy system or something. Like, so how does this system of being an escort go unnoticed and not make somebody go, like this one teacher, their classroom seems to be empty of adult supervision fairly frequently, maybe we should check into that. I don't know. I don't get it. Once again, it's not an isolated thing. It's not like an adult abuses a kid once a year, right? This is a pattern of behavior, and human beings and the human brain is exceptionally good at picking up on patterns. So I'm just saying, where's the failure that we've missed this pattern? Why? Why do we have to keep having this conversation? Is it that hard to staff a Christian school with quality educators? You have private donors and parents footing the bill for a Christian education, so money's not the bottleneck. So what is the point of failure? Like we were talking about before, why are we still guessing about this and asking, like, how could this happen at my church? How could this happen at our school? Like, this is unimaginable. No, it's not. It's happening every month. We see the headlines all the time. And as a result, people on the outside of church looking in kind of go, well, yeah, I would love for my kid to have a quality education that a private school supplies, but I'm not really sure I'm willing to get in bed with these yahoos if I have to keep reading headlines about sexual abuse and exorcisms. It's not a good look for the church, and it's a fairly obvious to state why. And I don't think it's really necessary to talk about how it breaks the church, right? It breaks us in our mission. It breaks us in our trustworthiness. It breaks us in our credibility. It breaks us in our ability to actually do the work of spreading the gospel. Like, how do you spread the good news when your church is just so full of bad news? I don't know. There's a better way. Radical transparency, radical accountability is what Mark would say if he were here. So, how about we get back to that? How about we stop accepting this as status quo and we start shutting these places down instead of finding ways to keep them afloat for the next scandal? That's my 2 cents, and I'm sticking to it. I think you can only have resurrection when you let things die. And so some of these schools, with some of their well-intentioned people who are falling down on the job, they just need to die to make way for better institutions to come up in their place. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that I'm being too harsh and that this is just what happens, law of large numbers? Lots of kids, lots of schools, lots of adults. These things are just going to happen and we should accept it for what it is? Or do you think we play a part in making sure that our kids don't have to worry about things like sex? Like, I know that we can't agree on the whole, like, how to keep our kids alive, right? How do we stop our kids from being mass shooting zones? I know we disagree on whether or not to put guns in the hands of teachers who have no interest in being security guards, right? But can we at least agree that the staff themselves shouldn't be sexually abusing them, shouldn't be physically abusing them, shouldn't be committing exorcisms? Can we agree on that and figure out how to keep our kids safe? Let me know in the comments what you think. We're Church is Lame. We're everywhere you can type Church is Lame in a search box. By all means, if you're watching us on YouTube, give us the thumbs up, give us the thumbs down, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, do all the clicking. If you listen to us on a podcast on your way to work, when you have a chance, give us a rating in your podcast player, maybe leave us a little review. Find us on Reddit. I will always post every new episode on Reddit, so give us that upvote or a downvote to let us know that you've watched it and liked it, and just let us know what you're thinking. And if you want to get a message in our eyes really urgently and make sure we see it, send us an email, churcheslamepodcast@gmail.com. Usually Mark does the benediction at the end of these, but you're stuck with me this time. So let me just say, we are so appreciative that you tune in to watch the show every week. We love you. We're thinking about you. We're praying for you. We hope that this week finds you blessed, finds you loved, that the blessing of God is upon you, and that you look to him for all of your wants and needs and concerns and joys this week. Thank you so much.